BYU is a 6 seed. They are taking on the 11 seed VCU in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
We feel like we're battle tested. The confidence that our guys have been playing with is something that we'll rely on.
Just engage in the combat zone early and then let BYU cook in the second half like they have.
What's Trending is presented by Tim Daly Ford, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. Here we go. It's March, baby. It's NCAA tournament time coming up Thursday. First season under Kevin Young has been a resounding success. How about BYU, currently ranked number 17th in the AP poll, finished tied for third in the Big 12, 14-6 in that league, got to the semifinals of the conference tournament. BYU has won 9 of 10 entering March Madness. They are hot still. What does BYU need to do in the NCAA tournament, however, to validate the season so far? That's the question we are talking about today. That is our question of the day. We'll get to your responses in a moment. My initial thought on this is that BYU's season has been awesome to this point. Do they need validation in the tourney? Yes, they still need it. Like, if BYU gets to this NCAA tournament and does not win at least one game, it doesn't undo anything that BYU did before, per se, but they need to add to it. Like, this team is prepared and done that for this. Seasons are not defined by regular seasons for BYU. They're defined by postseason play. And we talk lovingly and emotionally and excitedly about 1981, Elite Eight, Danny Ainge and the boys. 2011, Sweet 16, Jimmer Fredette. And then the others, there have been a handful of others that have won first-round games, but it's not that many, right? It's tough. BYU has had a great season. Not good, great. But they do need at least one win. They've got to beat VCU. They have to better what last year's team did. Last year's team was very good, too. Tied for 5th in the Big 12 and surprised everybody in year one in that league. They did not win that first-round game. That was a disappointment, even for that team. Imagine this team. I'm not going to have that invasive thought of BYU losing to VCU. I believe BYU is going to the Sweet 16. So they do need to win. It's one of the best BYU teams ever. You think about, nobody's been battle-tested in BYU history like this team. They had to play a tougher schedule than everybody else in BYU basketball history. 8 quad 1 wins, 15 quad 1 games, 22 of BYU's 30 D1 games were quad 1 and 2. The wins at Arizona and Iowa State are all time. Neutral site against Iowa State in the tourney, fantastic. 34-point win against Kansas, amazing. Baylor's win at home, which, by the way, Baylor 30 on Selection Sunday. So that was a quad 1 win on the last spot of a home game net spot, which is amazing at 30. So it's nice that this team has been unbelievable. They cannot lose in the first round and us talk about them as one of the great teams of all time, because you have to win in the postseason. They're one of the greatest regular season teams of all time, but I'm not sure that even matters. Who cares? You have to win in the postseason. Spencer, what say ye about what BYU has to do in the NCAA tournament to validate the season?
Well, again, they've been checking boxes all season long, and the next box to check is win a game in the NCAA tournament, because if BYU doesn't, then to your point, what is it all for? What did they go through all of this for if they cannot pay it off at the very end? You and I love movies. We love going to movies. How do you feel if the ending of the movie stinks? Like, it almost spoils everything else that was great in the movie. I know it's an unfair standard in a way, and I don't want to take anything away or diminish what BYU has done in the regular season, but everybody wants a good ending to this movie. They've been calling their basketball team and everything they've done this year cinema. Okay, well, if it's cinema, then let's put together a good finish at the end of the movie, and I think this team will do that. The question then is, how many games do they have to win to validate said season? There are those of you out there that are like, no, this team, if they ain't going to the Sweet 16, then it's a disappointment. I am not there. I am in the camp of just get to the round of 32 for the first time since Jimmer Fredette played at BYU. We're 14 years out.
That's the minimum. But I also want to talk about the maximum in a moment. That one win almost doesn't feel enough, though, even though one win would be great for the reasons you just outlined. But one doesn't feel enough. I feel like BYU, like this team and what they've done, they need to punctuate it with the Sweet 16 and be like, yep, we were that good. And look what we did in the postseason. Seasons are defined by what you do in the NCAAs. Frankly, I don't even care about the NITs. Like, I like that BYU won in 51 and 66 and and has been to the Final Four of the NIT. Like, now there's the crown in Vegas, and the NIT is minimized. Like, who cares? There's too many resources put into BYU basketball to expect anything but getting to the NCAA tournament, and when you go, to now win. What's the point of winning all these road games and quad one games and
becoming
Big 12
battle
games?
tested?
What's the point of it if you don't win one game against the A-10 champs? You can do it. BYU's going to do it on Thursday afternoon.
Here's the other thing about BYU and the trend that they've been on lately in the NCAA tournament. It's not like they're going in as a 10 to 12 seed.
Yes.
Or 14 seed that they were in 2012 when they played a first 4 game and won.
They're what, 3.5-point fave, I think, right now?
Yeah, they're a 6 seed for the 3rd consecutive NCAA tournament. They are a favorite for the 3rd straight time they have been to this tournament. Now it's time to pay it off and show up and play like a top 25 team. Heck, a top 17 team according to the AP poll. We thought BYU deserved maybe a 5 seed. A lot of people felt like, well, because it's BYU, they clearly, like, the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee doesn't want to do them any favors. I think BYU was given a fair shake in the 6 seed line. Now it's time to pay it off as the favorite.
If BYU had played a little tougher non-conference, I think they get to a 5.
Yes.
I think they get to a 5.
Yes.
Assuming you win another game or two.
Their non-conference was what, 3-14 or something like that?
It was not good. Kevin Young admitted, hey, that's something I've learned. We've got to play a tougher non-conference. They will. They're opening with Villanova next year. They're playing in Orlando
immediately
in
harder.
a good tournament. Yeah,
Yes.
It already is.
But again, I know that over the course of 14 years of not winning a first-round game, BYU has more often than not been a 6 seed, but the last 3 times they have been.
Yeah, this is a favorable situation. And in 1981, they were a 6 seed, and it wasn't a problem. They were 3rd in the WAC. You know who was 3rd in the Big 12 this year? Brigham Young. Let's go. Let's do it again.
BYU has become a very popular pick, as you were talking about, to get to the Sweet 16 and beyond. So you've already said that you believe that BYU can and should.
Not that they can. They will.
They will
I believe they
get
will.
to a Sweet 16.
They can go to the Final Four.
How do you feel about the idea of some notable college basketball experts picking BYU to get to an Elite 8? They are a trendy pick to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. They would have been a trendy pick to do the same back in 2019, 2020. Frankly, Jarom, last year, BYU was a little bit of a trendy pick to win their first-round game against Duquesne and get past Illinois and get to a Sweet 16. So why is it different this year compared to last year, or even back in 21 when BYU opened up with UCLA, who unfortunately went on a heater to the Final Four?
Yeah, they had 2 NBA guys in the backcourt. Jaime Jaquez, Johnny Juzang, those guys are good. Why is it different this year? I think because BYU's shown that they're a tougher team. Last year, BYU didn't have the win at Kansas was awesome, but Kansas was not in the same sort of metrical sphere that Arizona and Iowa State are. And you did it twice. Like, one amazing road win, awesome. Don't get me wrong. You do it twice, now that's like a trend. Now that's a streak.
BYU had a winning record in the Big 12 on the road.
Incredible.
6-4.
And the fact that they go up in the standings, they get to the semifinal. Like, BYU has built off what they did last year, even though it's a new staff. Like, they're not looking at the last group saying, well, let's keep it going. They're doing their own thing. I mean, we look at it like we're stacking here, and Kevin Young says, hey, we're stacking days. They want it to go up and up, and you bring in A.J. DiMonte. You feel like you want to go even higher, which wait till you hear what his expectations are for the NCAA tournament next year when he's on the team. He has high expectations, which I appreciate. So that's why I think it's a little different this year. Last year, we were like, yeah, you need to win. But frankly, the standard here isn't to win in the NCAA tournament. I want us to feel like it is. And I think this year we feel like, nope, you have to win, as opposed to being there is great. If we win, that's awesome too. You always want to win. But I mean, like, what you actually expect in your heart of hearts. We expect BYU to win this game.
And I think we should. We should. Every other expert expects BYU.
Why wouldn't we? Because it brings us to our next question.
Yes.
What role does history in the NCAA tournament for Brigham Young play into your expectations for this season?
Because BYU has been unable to pay off some solid seasons, there is PTSD for fans. It's like, oh, I don't know, they're a 6 seed again. And we documented yesterday, the 6 seed in the last 10 tournaments that the NCAA has put together has a losing combined record.
It's the new 5-12.
The 11 seed has a winning record over 10 years against the 6 seed.
That's wild.
Well, what do you know?
Look at these numbers. Like, what? Average seed, almost a 9, the record.
Last 30 years. That was what I was saying earlier. BYU's seed hasn't been ideal combined over the last 30 years. But in the last 3 tournament trips, you've been a 6 seed. It's time to show up and play like a top 25 team. We believe they will. We've been saying this team is different.
Yep.
They're not a one-trick pony. They get punched in the mouth early and they're down early. It's not over.
Unless it's Houston, because that was a different thing.
Houston's a bad matchup for every team in the country.
I would say, but everybody else, yes. Okay, a couple things here. 32nd appearance for BYU. That's top 25 in NCAA history. BYU goes to the tourney a lot.
Yes.
I believe they still have the most tourneys without a Final Four, which I hate that stat.
Yeah.
I also like that BYU makes the tourney. I'd rather make the tourney than not. Don't get me wrong. St. Mary's isn't in that stat because they don't make the tourney as much, right? Historically. 2-11 in the first round since 93.
2-11.
2010 and 2011, BYU won the first round games. That's tough. But the history thing is only for fans. Kevin Young and staff don't care.
They have nothing
or
to do with...
even know. You think Tim Fanning knows these stats? They don't matter to him.
They have
or
nothing
Will
to
Voigt.
do with what BYU has done or not done.
That's right. BYU's in the Big 12 now. It's different. Well, it was different last year. Okay, BYU hopefully learned from that situation. Playing the A-10 champs again. They played more physical games this year. They've won in more different ways. They have more physicality on this team than they did last year. In one person, frankly, Keba Keita. Keba Keita makes BYU more physical than they were last year, just by himself.
Without question. Without question. The guys that do matter, that were in last year's game, are back. And we're banking on the idea that they have learned and that they're going to use this as motivation to fuel the fire. Specifically, Richie Saunders, Dallin Hall, Fush Traore, Trevin Nell, they all
I know Dawson didn't play last year. He was on the team, though.
He was around.
Yes.
He knows what it was like.
Yes.
These guys know what that feeling was like last year and what it takes to show up and be mentally ready and physically engaged in what undoubtedly is going to be a game plan just like Duquesne had last year for VCU, which is BYU does not want to be pushed around. Go out, be super physical, test the whistles of the officiating crew, see how much we can get away with, and see if BYU can counteract that. We believe that BYU, because of the physicality that they are used to playing in on the road with Keba Keita in the mix, is ready for the challenge this year. If I am on the staff, and clearly we are not.
Wait, we're not? I thought we were. This is news to me.
My conversation would absolutely start with physical play. Just be super aggressive. Often at the halftime speech, we hear, well, we got to get downhill. We got to attack the rim. BYU sometimes kind of feels it out, and then after halftime, they get downhill and they get super aggressive. I'd start that way. Just start that way.
And honestly, when we watch the game Thursday, let's all do this. How many times does a ball handler for BYU get into the paint with 2 feet? Not a 1 foot thing. Like 2 feet are in the paint. That will tell you that BYU is getting downhill enough. You can quantify that.
That's where I would start that.
Yes, because then it's either a lob to Keba, a layup for that player, or it's a kick to a 3-point shooter. If BYU cannot get into the paint very much, they will be in trouble.